of you who showed up at 2 o'clock, like our literature said, I apologize for being a little late. An autograph session, $10 an autograph. Neither of the people paid me to support it. That's the way it works sometimes. My name is Tim Murphy. I work for Alto-Shaam. The piece of equipment I'm going to show you today is called the Vector line of ovens. I was fortunate enough to be part of the organization that developed the technology, and then I came over when the technology was acquired by Alto-Shaam. So I actually saw the first one of these made out of cardboard. So very, very happy to be where I am today. I have great fun. So we're going to cook some food. It's the easiest way to explain the technology. I really encourage questions. Makes my life a little bit easier. This demo is all about me and making sure I'm happy. So there's a smile or two. Pay attention. I have some zingers. So please feel free to ask questions. Throw a shoe at me, poke me in the eye, whatever it takes to get my attention. So we're going to start right off, and we're going to put catfish in the top chamber at 500. We're going to put pizza in the second chamber at 425. In the third chamber, we're actually going to use fresh waffle batter, and I'll play with it a little bit so that you see that it's actual waffle batter. I'm not doing anything that's a trick of any kind, and we're going to cook it at 375. And in the bottom chamber, I'm going to put these cookie bites in at 300. So I close the door, I move my check mark to the top chamber, I hit my NRA 2018, and I hit my catfish. Then I go to the second chamber, I find my pizza, flatbread pizza, and I start. Next chamber, I find my waffles, I have to scroll down, I hit waffles and they start. And finally at the bottom, I hit my cookie bites and they start. So when I talk about this technology with folks, I have a 12-point conversation, I have a 4-point conversation. 12-point conversation would take too long, so we're going to stick with the 4-point conversation. While we're doing this, while I'm chatting with y'all, we're going to be talking about the half-size ovens and the full-size ovens and some of the differences. Right now, we're just cooking in the small-size oven. So the first takeaway from the half-size oven is the fact that it's fully programmable. If you noticed, when I started pressing buttons, I pressed buttons that said the name of the item that I was cooking. So I have programmed the oven to cook the way I think is the gold standard for that particular item. So for instance, the catfish in the top that's cooking at 500 degrees, I'm cooking it the way I see fit to cook it. So it is one-touch programmability. So now it's cooking, we're off to the races. If you think it's a little darker, or maybe it should be darker, or whatever the case may be, we're going to teach you how to tweak those recipes so that it fits your gold standard. Of course, your gold standard would be wrong, because my gold standard is right. So, but we'll still let you cook it wrong. That's okay with us, if that's what you want to do. So that programmability is very key in consistency, making sure you get the cook right every time. The chef needs to have a day off from time to time. He can't be there to monitor everything. Now he can know, or she can know, that the products are going to be cooked the way that restaurant wants them to be cooked. Within that programmability, we actually have the ability to cook in stages or steps. So we can actually change what's happening inside the oven during the cook. So in the case of the pizza likes a lot of heat and a lot of air to be blown on it. But if I start the blowers at 100%, it's going to blow cheese off the pizza. So I start at 60% for about a minute, melt that cheese a little bit, and then bring the blowers up. And this is all in the programmability. I don't have to hit any additional buttons. It just is in the way the item is programmed. So that's programmability. The other takeaway of our 4 is what I refer to as flexibility. The ability to cook at different temperatures and at different blower speeds. So I'm literally cooking at 500 at the top, 300 at the bottom. And I get lots of people who tell me, well, I can cook 500 in my oven, and I can cook my chicken breast at 500. And I say, yes, you absolutely can. Throw some cookies in the bottom and let me know how those cookies come out. And we all know they're going to be crispy little burnt critters, so they're not going to be worth anything. We have the ability to cook food the way it wants to be cooked. I was an operator for 25 years in the contract food service world. I did not know, when I got into equipment about 3.5 years ago, I did not know that chicken breasts do not want to be cooked at 350. We always cook it at 350 because that's the lowest common denominator in convection ovens. That's what we cook everything at. Everything can be cooked at that temperature. It doesn't make it the right temperature. A chicken breast like this actually wants to be cooked at 450 degrees or even higher. I actually get a better yield from that product at 450 than I do at 350. Well, this bothered me a little bit because one, I think I know everything, and I didn't know that this was the case. And two, I've been cooking chicken breasts at 350 degrees for 25 years, which tells me I've been serving dry chicken for 25 years. So I was a little disappointed in myself. So after a little bit of work with some food scientists and some basic physics, it dawns on me that that chicken gets hit with that higher heat, is seared, so the moisture stays in, and then it's just in the oven for a shorter period of time. So I really encourage all of you to taste the chicken. When we're done here, we'll cut it up and you can taste it and you can see how nice and moist it is. So we've got our programmability, we've got our flexibility. In the half-size ovens, not in the full-size, but in the half-size ovens, all of our smaller ovens are ventless. I refer to these as our tabletop ovens, so they do not have to go under a hood. So, yeah, really. So, quite often I get, well, is there backup for that? Because my inspector's a real jerk. He's always in a bad mood. I don't think he eats well, and I don't think he gets enough exercise. So he's always in a bad mood. And can you help me with that? The state of California and the city of New York City, from one of our rep groups is here and knows this firsthand from New York City, are the most difficult places to get hoodless equipment in place. We have sold ovens and have ovens operating in both locations. And we have organizations, companies that have bought those ovens in those locations that are very risk adverse. So they went in with great confidence that they were going to be able to put those ovens in New York and in California. I'm going to take a quick little break here, and I'm going to crack 6 eggs. And the reason I'm taking the break is cracking eggs and teaching or instructing, not a strength. I mean, I'm good looking. I can only expect so much. So to be a little less coordinated but have the looks, I think is a good trade-off. All evens out. The reason I crack the eggs in front of my customers when I do demos is because I don't know if you all are familiar, but you can buy fried eggs already fried. And they come 144 to a case, and they're really gross. And I don't want anybody to think I'm using those eggs, so I crack right in your presence so that you know I'm not using those. I'm breaking a few yolks so that you can see that the setting is the same for a hard yolk as it is for a sunny side up yolk. So now I can get back to our conversation. So we've talked about flexibility, programmability, and we were talking about the fact our small ovens are ventless. If you were to have problems with an inspector, we actually have some people we can put on the phone with the inspector to explain the UL approval process so they understand how UL came to the opinion or came to the fact that these ovens are indeed hoodless. For total clarification, because our minds want to look at this oven and say ventless and then move to this one, and ventless doesn't go out of our brain. These are not ventless ovens. These are required to be under a hood. So that's one of the differences. So now we've gone through 3 takeaways, and the 4th takeaway is not nearly as fun, but it's actually more important than the other 3. Programmability, flexibility, hoodless are all really sexy. We can get our minds around that. That's fun to think about. And then I say to you, the other thing is airflow. And we're all immediately bored because that just doesn't sound like fun. In actuality, it is what's fun. It's the main driver behind this technology. In a convection oven today, when you put food in the oven, your blower is either from the side or from the back. So you're moving air across the top of the food and underneath the food. It is the most inefficient way to transfer energy from the air to the product. That's one of the reasons that we use 350 degrees, is we hope that if we slow it down a little bit, use less temperature, we're going to even up that cooking over time. But in actuality, it's not a good way to transfer energy. So what we have done is we have taken the air and we're still moving it horizontally, but we're not releasing it. You may notice these shelves are rather thick. That's because there's air moving through them. So this is a shelf or a plenum, as we refer to it, from one of the cold ovens. So the air actually enters into the shelving unit. It is moving horizontally, and then it is released through what we call slots and docks, or our fence posts, however you'd like to refer to it. So now the air is moving, instead of horizontally, is moving vertically. So by doing that, we've now taken the same pan of food and we're now hitting it with the air from the top and from the bottom, which is a much, much more efficient way to transfer energy. Out of that comes a lot of really cool stuff. That in and of itself is pretty cool. If you notice, one of the results of this structured air technology, the way we're moving this air, is that we're not rotating pans. We're not managing this oven. We put our product in and it cooks, and then it blinks and beeps and it's done. We don't have to manage those pans. It's a direct result of this new airflow coming from the top and the bottom. If you can see inside of the oven from where you are, you will see that there are some screens in the back and on the left-hand side. These screens are meant as filters for grease. But what I most want you to see is that that's the return air. So all the air is cycled through the oven, hits the food, goes through the return air, is reheated and comes back. That return air being in the back of the oven and on the side, and the air coming from the top and the bottom is very, very important, because that air is coming from the top and the bottom and it is immediately drawn back into the oven. What does that mean? These are things that are not as important as the energy transfer and the even cook, but nonetheless are important. Because I have that air coming from the top and the bottom and it's then drawn into the back, I can actually open the oven while I'm standing in front of it. Anybody use a combi or a convection oven? Would you stand here when you open it? No. I don't want to stand here when I open a convection or a combi, because I'm going to get what? I'm going to get blasted by a big blast of air, or in the case of a combi, perhaps steamed air. I consider myself a very good-looking man. Scarring my face with burns would not be at the top of my list. It would take me out of the very good-looking man category. So that's why I don't stand there. But more importantly, all that air rushing out of the oven now takes all the heat out of the oven. When you close the door, you now have to reheat that oven. You've lost all your heat. Your recovery time is very, very long because of that. Nowhere in any of these buildings where they're selling ovens is anybody going to say to you, oh, we're perfectly happy with you opening and closing the door during the cook. They don't want you to do that because you're going to lose the heat. You're going to have a negative impact on the cook quality. It's going to take longer to cook because you're blasting all the heat out. We actually designed this oven with the intent that you will open and close it during the cooking process. As you have seen, Ryan has continuously opened and closed the door, taken one item out, put a new item in. Because of this top and bottom air and it being drawn back into the back, one of the nice results of that is the fact that we don't stop cooking when we open the door. A combi or a convection oven, the heater turns off and the blower turns off. If it stayed on, it would continue to blow you in the face and move more heat out of the oven. We actually can keep the cook process going. So we continue to cook when the door is open and our fans continue to blow. Now, over a period of time, obviously if I open this oven for too long, there is going to be negative consequences to the cook. However, it's not immediate, number one, and number two, we have actually taken into account for the fact that that door is staying open. So after the door has been open for 20 seconds or longer, the oven starts to add time to the cook. So it compensates for the door being open. So even though I've had the door open for a while, I have no concerns about those cooks, because each chamber that has food in it is having time added to the cook time to compensate for that door being open too long. Kind of a nice feature, I think. I would love to tell all of you that that was my idea. It wasn't. If you would like to go back and tell your family and friends that it was my idea, I won't correct you. It's okay. I like to take credit for that one. A couple other things that come out of the fact of this top and bottom air is, though I am, besides being very good looking, I am very tough, and normally I can touch hot things. But the top of this oven was heated to 500 degrees. I'm not that tough. Because the air is not slamming into that door and superheating that door, I'm able to touch that door. We're pulling that air back in. Anybody here a cook? You're a cook. Were you here at the beginning? Yep. What's your name?
Haley.
Haley. Haley, did you happen to notice 2 items that I put in the oven at the same time at the beginning of the cook? I'll help you.
4. It was catfish.
There was 4, right? Catfish. What was at the bottom?
Cookies.
Do you have, she said catfish at the top, cookies on the bottom. Do you have an affinity for catfish flavored chocolate chip cookies? No, she doesn't. If we had put the catfish and the cookies inside of a regular convection oven and cooked them together, we would have had a new craze. It would have been all the rave. Catfish flavored chocolate chip cookies. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. Because the air in each chamber stays in its location, because it doesn't have the opportunity to bleed from one place to another because we're drawing the air back in, we don't have to worry about flavor transfer. In any other case, and I've actually had a demo or two where somebody has tried to stop me when I was putting a bakery product inside an oven with what I refer to as a stinky product, which is quite often fish, but could also be cauliflower. Yuck. So we don't have that flavor transfer, once again, because of the way this air flows. Anybody have any questions for me at this point? It's a good time to ask questions. See, if you had asked a question prior to me asking if you had any questions, because right after I talk about catfish and cookies, I always ask if there are any questions. If I get to that point and I have not had any questions, then if I get a question prior to that point, sorry, I give the first person to ask a question a $100 bill. But I already got to that spot, so you have all lost out on a $100 bill because you didn't ask any questions. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Now we have questions.
No,
there's no second prize.
No, I don't want
Okay,
it.
all
I
right.
don't want it. Can you clean the glass? Can you open up that glass from the door to be able to open it up and clean it?
So my Haley here.
The combis that we have at my work are incredible, and I absolutely love them. But we have a feature on the glass where you can literally untwist it and you can clean in between the glass and the door.
So she noticed when the door was open that it's a double pane glass, and it is on all of our ovens. And the glass, well, this is an older, sorry, prototype. Oops. The glass is double paned, and you can get between the pane glasses. Yep, it hinges across. So,
Oopsie doopsie.
so even the latch is the same between the ovens.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So coming out of the oven right now, I always move these to the front because we all know. Do you know my theory on Brussels sprouts? These will get eaten, so we can put them behind the glass. Those will get eaten. These will not. Put it out front. My theory on Brussels sprouts is that toward the end of the 6th day, some of you may have heard this, toward the end of the 6th day, God created Brussels sprouts and green peas. And he felt like he was starting to mess up. That's why he took the next day off. So he felt like he was starting to mess up when he created Brussels sprouts. So he took, it's a tough crowd. I think one person, the 10 o'clock crowd, did chuckle. 12 o'clock crowd was good. So some items we have coming out that you want to cook in a regular convection oven. Obviously the fried eggs. You notice that I did break 2 of the eggs, but the other 4 are still sunny side up. This is kind of an aha item. This isn't something that you would cook in a typical oven, whether it be convection, whether it be combi. It's very difficult to get it even. Once again, that's a direct result of this top and bottom air. So as the cooks are finishing up in the oven, I'm going to bring some other items out. This was our catfish, and those are our catfish flavored chocolate chip cookies. These are our little pizzas. Once again, this pizza may be too dark for you. That's fine. You'd be wrong. It should be this dark. But if you wanted to cook it lighter, we're happy to teach you how to cook it lighter. This looks like some kind of science experiment. But when we take it and we give it a little tap, We've actually cooked waffles from batter. For those of you that were here, you saw that I played in the batter a little bit to show you that it was wet batter. So we've actually cooked Belgian waffles inside of an oven. Once again, we've cooked all of these products with other products that don't smell exactly pleasing, being the fish, Brussels sprouts, accident, it's all the rage. You watch, no one will eat them. The fish is nice and flaky as we break it apart. Maybe a little bit too done for you. Once again, we can very easily make the adjustments that we need to make. Breakfast sausage came out of the oven, flip it over, we look exactly like we just came off a flat top. We get a number of our customers. We've already sold approaching 450 ovens. We have a number of customers who have found that the technology helps relieve pressure on other pieces of equipment in the kitchen. So if somebody said to me, can you steam in the oven? I don't have a water supply, but I can cook rice. I can cook rice perfectly. A lot of us know that we can cook rice in a convection oven, but you pull it out multiple times and stir it. I never touch it. 21 minutes, 2 cups of rice, 4 cups of water. I never touch it. It's the fluffiest rice you'll ever see. Would I tell you that I'm the greatest rice cooker ever in the Vector oven? I don't really know. That's probably up for debate. But if you didn't have any other way to cook it, I know I can cook your rice. If you wanted to steam 1 vegetable a day, I can steam a vegetable a day. If you're asking me if this is the greatest steamer in the world, I would tell you probably up debate. But I got a gentleman right over here in a very good looking sports coat who'd be happy to show you a combi which will do all your vegetables tremendously. But the point being here is that we can take some pressure off of other equipment. You notice when we put the chicken in, it was on a grill plate. This grill plate's getting more and more popular, and you'll see it in different applications. You'll see it here at the show at other manufacturers. But almost always, I will say always, they are cooking that product on a preheated grill plate. They don't have the ability to transfer the energy directly into that pan directly from the bottom. I panned up the chicken, I put it in the fridge, I brought it out for you guys, I cooked it, and now I have grill marks as if I just took this off a charbroiler. So charbroilers can be messy, they create a lot of gunk in the hoods. If you didn't want to go that route, but you'd like to have a couple of grilled items, we were able to do that. So these are just some of the sidebar benefits of having all of this product be able to come out of this one oven and substitute for other pieces of equipment. I can make a tremendous quesadilla by putting the quesadilla on the pan, putting another pan, folding it over, another pan on top. I can cook that in about 6 minutes, and it looks like it just came off a flat top. So the last thing I would like to say to you, if there are any other questions, or we have any other questions?
Does your grill pan come in a full sheet?
It does.
Awesome.
We have a grill pan for the full size. Let's go over, I forgot. I gotta backtrack just a quick second. Our full size ovens, then I'll let you eat. Our full size ovens, 3 differences. One we already talked about, they are not ventless. I wanna make sure I make that clear, they're not ventless. We do, however, have the ability to cook with a probe. So we can cook with temperature instead of time. Why is this not already out on the market? The reason it's not out on the market is because convection ovens, they compete against each other based on what? Price. They base on price. In order to add this probe into a full-size convection oven, they're going to have to add a computer board. They're going to have to add this $85 part and some wiring. They are going to effectively price themselves out of the market. So they're not going to sell anyone, so no one's done it. Because we have the computer board already in the oven, we can add the probe. So now we have probability. Can I just point out one thing? How are you? What's your name? Hi, Chris. How are you? Nice to meet you. If you notice over on this controller, I've got 4 offs, 1 for each chamber, right? I can actually, Chris, listen up. This is what she was about to say. I can actually pull these jet plates out so that I can cook a roast or a turkey. In order to get a roast or a turkey in here, you're going to have to chop it up or get a tremendous running start. Thank you. It was fake, but good. So I can actually pull this jet plate out. When I take this handle I pull it forward, you see I've now switched to 3 control buttons. So that's the manual part. What else has also happened here is by pulling this flap, when I pulled that jet plate out, I left a big hole in the back, right? Where the air was going into the jet plate. By pulling that lever, I have put flaps over those openings. And I've also told the computer that the motor for this chamber and the motor for this chamber are now acting together. They're acting as one motor. So those are the big 3 differences in the full size. It is not ventless, that's the bad news. The good news is you can cook with a probe and you have expandability. Did Corinne leave? She mad at me? Corinne? You can have the other one. You're welcome. So what I would say to you, there's some of you who might have some questions and you're a little shy and you don't want to ask. That's fine. Here in a second, I'm going to turn the mic off. I'm going to start chopping up food for you to eat. If in fact you have some questions and you were just a little shy, please come forward. I'll be here for a while chopping up the food. The last thing I would say to you is, have you ever seen this much food cooked at different temperatures, at different blower speeds, to this quality, the right quality, my gold standard, in 17 minutes? Would any of you have guessed that this came out in 17 minutes? So 10 pans of food in 17 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for stopping by and allowing me to talk to you about the Vector. I am going to shut down a little bit now and feed you, and if you have any questions, let me know. Enjoy the rest of the show.